Good afternoon, traders. This is Tony D from easyMarkets in the Sydney dealing room. We have an update for you today that's quite interesting because yesterday we were looking at the market being on the verge of falling over, and it ended up having a really big fall. The selling coming through in the Asian session was a precursor of much bigger falls coming through in the European session, and the risk-off sentiment that we've seen develop through both the pound and the euro in the last 24 hours has been fairly aggressive, and it's definitely when you're looking at the dollar yen dropping 200 pips as well, that it's clear that there is an issue out there, and a lot of it is centered around global trade and ongoing concerns, prompted by Trump's lack of optimism on deal with China and on North Korea meeting, but now on new reports that you are seeing tariffs going to be potentially introduced on imported autos into the US and auto parts. Now, that's a big deal because a lot of these countries are already in the firing line for steel tariffs, like Germany and Japan and China, again in the firing line here when it comes to autos. And some of the biggest companies in the world are definitely are being targeted here when it comes to the who buys cars in the US, whether it be BMW or Toyota. Now, in regards to what's happening though, because the market was a bit oversold already from yesterday, the market hasn't really moved to aggressive downside here in Asia, but definitely has attempted to go lower and has gone lower on the dollar yen, which is a sort of canary in the coal mine when it comes to risk appetite. And you have seen it drop below yesterday's low of 109.50 down to now 109.40, and is on a precarious footing here, looking like it's reversing and could drag down the euro yen and pound yen later in the European session if they were to take a risk-off view to the new Trump threats here that were only just at the end of the US session, started the Asian session today. Now, US stocks did manage to bounce into the close, so they're well off their lows and potentially can mitigate some of this risk, but you are seeing the general feeling in the Nikkei to being quite negative. So the DAX opening shortly is going to be key. If you aren't trading stocks that often, then what you want to look at during the Asian session is the Nikkei, during the European session the DAX, and during the US session the Dow. They'll give you a general feeling for the direction the markets stock markets are heading globally from each session. To each session, the most important being the Dow, of course, but the DAX is a pretty good indicator of how the Dow's going to fare as well. A lot of companies are cross listed on all exchanges, so you are getting a good indication, especially if you add a couple more of the exchanges on there, like the FTSE and the S&P and the Nasdaq, keeping a broad view of what's happening. Dollar index is strong, but there is some concern here that we are near highs for the dollar index. Now, why is the market a little bit more circumspect about US dollar strength now? Well, the FOMC minutes did open the door to a less aggressive Fed than had some had been pricing in. Now, there was some concern that oil was going to lead to higher inflation, and then the Fed being more aggressive in raising rates. They pushed back on that idea in their minutes, saying that they'll be flexible when it comes to rate hikes in the future, and that is you are looking at uh, them being patient and allowing inflation to run a little hotter than the 2% level to and not react quickly there. So some of the rate hikes that were priced in were taken off the board by the market, and you saw the 10-year yield, which is the most important yield currently driving some of the US dollar strength, drop back below the key 3% level. So the door opening for US dollar to have a correction is there, but you do have the other issues in the background, which is the trade issues, which are still supporting the US dollar via the safe haven bid, and so you do have this sort of mix at the moment, where there's a chance for US dollar strength, but weakness, but you do need the stock market to stabilize and rebound for that to become a reality. Dollar yen is probably the best pair to be watching right now for the general feel of the US dollar strength and weakness, and the falling of the dollar yen means that there is this door opening. That wasn't, back in the day, we weren't seeing dollar yen fall even when stocks are falling because the US dollar was so strong based on the yields. Now you are seeing dollar yen fall. So there is this new situation now where safe havens have a chance to rally against US dollar, and one of the ways that you could see that happening is via gold as well as dollar yen, and that's where you want to be watching today if stocks were to take this new threat of of US tariffs on automotives as a very negative development, and that would be the main theme for today. There's not too much data coming out for either today or the rest of the week. So the main data was yesterday. You did see the inflation numbers come out of the UK quite weak, and this did help the pound selling, which was already on the back foot anyway. And we did get all the way down to 133. The main target for some of the sellers in the most recent downtrend has been 133, so that job has been accomplished. Let's see if it can break or stabilize now. Not too much movement here in the Asian session, a little bit of rebounding, a little bit of profit taking, but it's really been a London session pair lately, and we'll see if they want to try and take it lower again. There is a bit of Brexit news that's come out earlier today, and that is that May is going to be pressing for the Brexit transition to be extended till 2023. On the face of it, that is positive. If that was pushed through, that does give them more time and does give businesses a little bit more surety in planning their investments for the next few years at least. Alright guys, if you want to have a chat about some of the things we've touched on here, we've touched on a lot of topics. Come through on the dealing room numbers below and contact your dealer, or if you're not a member of the easyMarkets dealing room, you can access us by selecting on the link below, opening an account, and someone like myself will assist you.